to anywhere. Maybe we make a deal. Maybe together we can get somewhere. Any place is better. Starting from zero.
Good morning, good morning.
Good
morning, everybody.
Starting on to the original Grammy winner.
It was a good show, I heard.
You got a fast car. I got a plan to get us out of here. Been working at the convenience store. Managed to save just a little bit of money.
All right, we'll give it one more minute, Stephanie.
Alrighty.
We got 34 folks in.
Morning, all. Good to see you.
Finally see what it means to be living.
Kathy, are you in an airport? You look like you're in a bright spot.
I am. I am in Columbia, South Carolina, trying to get back from a training.
I was going to say, it looks very bright and corporate-y looking there. I should be a detective. I'm so observant. Another skill I have if I ever need it. Jennifer, I'm with you. I saw her too in '97. Yeah. I used to listen to her on my cassette tape recorder in my Plymouth Champ, to be exact. If that doesn't bring a really visual to all of you about my early days, there you go. And I think my hair was big, like Madonna big. I'm pretty sure. I did not do the pearl arm wrap, though. I did not do that one.
We'll open the next task force meeting with a slideshow of pictures of your hair throughout the years.
Oh, that's
Yeah.
right. Yeah.
I had a serious mullet in 1997, so you know.
You can
There's-
bring it
there's
back. The mullet has come back.
Oh, Farrah Fawcett, Crystal.
Arms are coming back.
Oh, the big roller.
I feel like that is back also.
That's funny. All right, are we in?
We're in.
Now that we've walked down memory lane.
I just gave up my age in 1997, so there it is.
That was how old you were in 1997. I'm not even going to address that.
Yeah,
Yeah, I'm moving on to roll call. That's just hard to believe. Okay. Good morning, all. Good to see you. Welcome. We are going to do our roll call to see who's here. So if you will please just let me know when I call your name. We'll start with Dawn Alexander.
I'm here. Good morning.
Hi, Dawn. Good to see you. Yolanda.
Yolanda put in the chat that she's here but has a cold, so she's going to be on chat.
Fantastic. Kevin.
Here. Good morning.
Hello, friend. Sam.
Here.
Hi, good morning. Carlos. Ah, there you are. I see you, Carlos. I've got you. Ashley Chase. It's looking around. Jill Cohen.
Hi, good morning.
Hi, good morning, Jill. Michelle.
Hi, good morning.
Hi. Jessica.
Good morning.
Hi, Jessica. Tara.
Good morning, everyone. I'm here.
Hi, good morning. Ida.
Hello, I'm here.
Hi. Miss Jennifer, we've already walked down memory lane together. I know you're here.
good morning.
Good to see you.
You
Leanna.
too.
I'm here. Good morning.
Hi. Zane. I saw Zane smiling somewhere.
Good morning.
Hi, Zane. And he's still smiling. That's good. Nate Halpern. I don't see Nate. Adriana. Thought I saw her. Adriana. Nope. Okay. Lori. No. Okay. Shayna. I don't see any. Okay, Gina.
Good morning, I'm here.
Hi, Tina, I see you. Thank you. Kristen?
Men's,
Yep, there you are.
Sorry.
Hi.
sorry, hi, I don't ever use the ending anymore, so
Oh,
we're good.
my apologies. I
You're
will
good,
shorten
you're
it up.
good.
Thank you. Michelle Murphy, I think she has a standing conflict for the first part of this meeting, so I don't see her. Okay, Margaret.
Hello, I'm here.
Good morning,
Hello.
friend.
I'm here.
Good morning, friend. Colleen. Sarah.
Here.
Hi, Sarah. Rashawn.
Here.
Uh,
Good morning.
Oh, thank you, Rashawn. Casey.
Morning, everyone.
Hi, Kathy Wells. We already identified your location, both in the airport and on the screen. Donna Wilson.
Good morning.
Hi, Donna. Kelsey.
Good morning. I'm here, but I do have to sign off at 9:30.
Yes, I got your note. Thank you. And Jade.
Good morning.
Hi, Jade. All right. Is there anybody I did not call? I think I have got a good list these days. Okay.
Guckin here with Family Resource Center Association.
Thank you. My apologies. I don't know why I don't have that, but thank you. I should know that by now. All right, moving on to, sorry, just taking a couple notes. All right, moving on to the order of business, your January 24th meeting recap and minutes. Starting with the minutes, those were sent to all of you, and I'm sure people have taken a look. Are there any corrections that need to be made to the meeting minutes of January 24th? And I'm looking at my two screens. I see no hands up. All right, seeing no comments on that, if I could have a motion and a second, and please announce your name as you make those motions.
Hi, Michelle Dawsey. I'll make the first motion.
Don Alexander, I'll make the second.
Thank you both. All right, is there any opposition to passing and approving these minutes from January 24th? All right, thank you. Going to go through the same process for our meeting recap of January 24th as well, 2024. Any additions, corrections, edits you would like to see to this document? Okay, seeing none. Seeing none. All right, if I could have a motion and a second, and please, again, announce your name as you do that.
It's Chris Menz, I motion that we pass.
Thank you, Chris.
Zane Grant, so moved. Or second, sorry.
Thanks, Zane. Is there anybody opposed to approval of this meeting recap from January 24th, 24? I like that, 24. That's easy to remember. All right. I see no opposition to that. So both of these documents will move forward with approval from the group. And I think that is my very difficult tasks trace are now concluded.
Perfect. Thanks, Stephanie. All right, y'all. We are anticipating a little bit of a shorter meeting today, but we are excited for the discussion and to kind of wrap some things up on our conversations that we've had in the last couple of meetings regarding definitions. So excited for Doris will open that up in a little bit. I wanted to go through a quick roadmap just so folks know where we are, where we're headed. Our next meeting after today is February 28th, as you know, and then we'll be onward into our remaining year. So wanted to quickly share that. I'm having a hard time screen sharing, so let me see. Here we go. See if that comes through now. All right. So today we're wrapping up the definition of abuse and neglect. We're gonna, again, we had 28 members complete the survey. And so we're gonna go through and make sure that we've captured your and sorry, Karen, if you could admit folks in the waiting room, that'd be helpful. We're going to let folks know what we've captured as far as your stance goes on that. And then we have a few folks that we want to make sure we hear from today that weren't able to complete the survey. And then we're going to move on. And that'll be the end of the discussion today. And you won't be revisiting that until we are finalizing the final report, where we bring things together as a full package. February 28th. So I know we talked about subcommittee groups. We actually are going to bring everyone and keep everyone together for the alternative reporting and Warmline conversation, just because of the amount of interest and discussion there was amongst the group. So we are going to keep that full group. You know, we might have breakouts if we need to break into to have a robust discussion, but we're going to bring everyone together and try to keep everyone together for that. Just because that feels like it's in the best interest of folks. And then we'll discuss the recommendations to create that alternative reporting mechanism. And then from there, depending on how that goes, again, with the bringing folks together, March and onward will be the subcommittee work. And we're working on mapping that out again to ensure that we get to each of our directives. I think the thing I just want to highlight is that as we continue to look back at the legislation and make sure that we look at each of our directives, we have a very specific roadmap that we're going to have to keep to in order to get to where we need to go in order to make sure that we address all of those pieces. But today we'll conclude our first actual recommendation, if you can believe it. And so then from there on, we'll be marching forward on each individual recommendation piece. Doris or Stephanie or Brian, anything I'm missing as far as the roadmap goes that we wanted to be sure to highlight? Okay, great. I will, sorry, Doris, were you going to jump in?
I was just saying we're good.
Okay, great. All right, so with that, wanted to also bring in Doris. I think as we come into this revised recommendation that you all have received via email and you've responded to, most of you responded to via survey. Doris, I'm going to hand it over to you to just open it up for discussion before we make sure that we capture folks' stance on that and that we understand, we give folks a chance to kind of give voice to that.
Awesome. Thank you. Yeah, I was echoing. Good morning, everyone. I'm sure you all had a chance to review the recap for those of you who weren't part of the conversation. Last time, Jordan and Brian made some revisions to the language following our discussion, and all of you should have received the survey that included that draft language and then responded. I'm actually going to pull up on the screen the language that was changed so that you all can have it in front of you for those of you who may not have the document pulled up. And I really want to just sort of like show you where those who responded to the survey, which was a majority of the task force members, and sort of how that came out in the end, and which I will just sort of preview that it was the substantial majority of the task force responded in support of the changed language, with just a handful of folks being opposed. I know based on our prior conversation, there was some reservation in supporting the language changes, wanting to sort of look at the package as a whole. So just to recap some of what Trace shared and what we shared in our prior conversation is that this is not the only time that you will see this language come before you and have an opportunity to weigh in. We want to make sure that we go through all of the directives, and then we'll bring the full package back so that you can have an opportunity to look at everything together and then have an additional opportunity to weigh in. Trace, can you do a screen share real quick? If you could go to, I think it's slide 7. All right, so just to recap, the recommendation is for changing the language in 19.3.304 regarding persons required to report child abuse or neglect. The changes are here in bold, starting with .3 and including the subsections A and B. I'm not going to read it to you because you all have it in front of you, but just wanted for those of you who didn't have it in front of you to have an opportunity to just revisit what was included in here. By way of a reminder, there was the desire to sort of bring all of the exceptions in a single place. And that's reflected in this particular draft too. I'm going to go to the next slide. So just to share, we had one respondent respond twice, so that 28 reflects the double response. So we actually had 27 task force members individually respond, with, again, the majority of responses being in support of the draft language that I just showed you on the prior slide. And again, just a handful of those who of respondents indicated that they opposed. I wanted to, you can pull the slide down. We're gonna, at the end of our discussion, provide an opportunity for those of you who did not respond through the survey to have an opportunity to voice over your support or opposition, so that we can have a count of the task force, a fuller count or complete count of those of you who support or oppose the recommended language. Again, we don't want to focus so much on wordsmithing. We really want to have an opportunity to hear from you, strength in significant feelings in either way, support or opposition, so that we can voice over what we want to include in the report and recommendations, noting any particular concerns or pain points that any of you have with the recommendations. So I want to open up the floor. I'm trying to manage the chat. Yeah, Michelle, we weren't going to call you out, so thank you for saying that it was you with the double responses. No worries. We weren't gonna put you on public display, but thank you for naming that. So I want to open up the floor for those of you who had some questions or major concerns, to, again, not wordsmithing it, but just overall concerns, questions, or things that you want to lift up that made you really strongly feel in favor of supporting the recommended language.
Doris, this is Zane. Just real quick, I voted in favor of what was presented. If there was a box included that could have said comments, I probably would have had, a small but in there. Again, my only concern with the language as it was presented was it felt like there was an onus on the reporter to know, again, about community resources. And so I just want to be super careful, because it just felt like the language, and I know we're going to wordsmith, and I know we're going to address this maybe down the line, but again, that would have been what I would have put in the chat box, was, again, the mandatory reporter's obligation to know a little bit more. It felt a little unclear to me.
Awesome. Thank you, Zane. And Jennifer, I see your note that you had similar concerns, and so that's why you voted in opposition. I think when we get into the conversation about warm lines, and potential strategies that can help mandatory reporters make informed decisions about what might be the right path for a child or family, I think some of those questions that you have outstanding might be addressed there. What other, outstanding questions or concerns gave folks pause that you want to make sure that we capture to think about in future sessions, as well as in the recommendations overall? Hi, Jill, I see your hand up.
Hi, I opposed. I think if I had been able to comment, I would have proposed language, and I think it's beyond wordsmithing. I think that the language that, I can either put it in the chat or I can email it to you all. And actually we were looking at OCR's foster youth bill of rights, and I think they have a really good list of places where people can be free from discrimination. And so I think families could be free from discrimination and maybe use some of the language that exists in that bill. But again, I can send that to you. And then in part 4, I have like notes here, but I don't have the actual document right up that you had just shared. But like there's a shall that I think should be a may, and that's about the department providing lists of community resources upon request of mandatory reporters. And I don't know that we should be putting another mandatory obligation on anybody here. So anyway, I'm happy to send that to you. I think it goes beyond, a little bit beyond wordsmithing. And it's easier for me to just put it in writing for you, if that's okay.
Awesome, thank you, Jill. And I put in the chat section 4 or subsection 4, and I see that language that you're talking about. This section shall consider how alternative services and resources may aid the child. Thank you. I think Jordan and team would greatly appreciate any suggested language that you have. And I think also, you know, kind of lifting up the Foster Youth Bill of Rights as a potential opportunity to pull in some language. Chris?
So, I actually am for it, but I was opposed when I voted, and the reason being was, and actually Ashley just put this, or Crystal Allen just put this, you all put a family's child, race, class, or gender, and where I think that's great, I thought we were going for the whole civil rights piece of it, of, you know, because I'm a gay woman, I don't see any protected class for a family who has same-sex parenting or whatever. There's no religion based in here. I thought it was the whole shebang. And so that's why I was like, yeah, that describes everything, you know? And so I don't feel that this is enough information based on somebody's level of hate that they're going to come forward and just put this through.
Awesome.
So
Thank you, Chris.
that's why I said no.
Thank you. Awesome. And Jill, I see you put some language in the chat as well. Stephanie?
Yeah, I was just going to ask for Jill's language. And Chris, thank you for those comments, and for Jill. Chris, if you would take a look at the language, it sounds like you and Jill are I think, referencing some of the same concerns. So if you would look at this language and just get back to us if this is what you envisioned, and whether or not we can flesh that out. I think certainly. I think that those are very legitimate arguments.
Thank you, Stephanie. Leanna?
So I was in favor of the language, although I think Jill and Chris had some good points now that I'm hearing them. But I also would have added a comment if that was an option. And I think this has been talked about in previous meetings, but I guess I just want to reiterate that if we were to change that language, there are other parts of the statute that would need to be changed, because those kind of carve-outs are in direct conflict with, for example, 19.3.102 and like the definition of dependency and neglect in that part of the statute. So I just wanted to reiterate that would need to be changed as well.
Thank you, Leanna. Yeah, we're focused specifically on the duties around mandatory reporters. And I think that, you know, as the recommendations get fleshed out, certainly noting, you know, the inconsistencies or potential challenges with other sections, other statute sections. All right, I'm monitoring the chat here. We will have an opportunity. I got a note from a member of the public. We will have an opportunity for public comment before we wrap up our meeting today. So there'll be an opportunity for you to share any comments that you have. What other concerns, questions, et cetera, that folks want to note to make sure that we get on the record, particularly for those of you who did not have a chance to respond to the survey? Speak now or forever hold your peace until we revisit these as a whole package.
This is Rashan. I did vote, but I opposed for the reasons that have already been stated. And I guess I would just repeat again, I think we have to put side by side the reporting and the resourcing. I think if we separate them and circle back, which I just continue to worry that we're going to miss it, or we're going to leave it to something else and then it's not going to get done. It's going to be two separate pieces. And the part that people will focus on is the reporting, and the resourcing will fall later. So that was a piece. And again, I didn't feel like the protections were nearly enough. It was striking that, and I think that's the problem when you list in this way too, is like there's going to be people who aren't included, but we do have some language in the law already that's wider than this that I think could have been included.
Thank you, Roshan. And I see, Chris, that you put some language in the chat as well. We will save the chat so that the CPO team will have a chance.
And just to be clear, I don't want to say that a protective class is exempt from having a mandatory report made against them. That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying that the report should not be made based on the sole fact that it's a gay couple, or it's a practicing religious couple, or it's or whatnot. If the child is there, if there is a suspect of abuse or neglect or whatnot, emotional, physical, etc., it should be based on the child. And that's all I'm saying in that regard.
Chris, if I said something that made you reflect, then I'm sorry. That's obviously not what I meant either, and I didn't. I might have said something wrong. I think we're all talking about only Otherwise, so if I said something, I'm not sure if that was a reply to me, but I'm sorry if I.
No, it wasn't. I just wanted to be clear that for me, it's about the welfare of the child, and where I live is very conservative and rural, and a lot of reports get made here based on the parental status or whatnot, or people feel we could go on the whole national and where we're at on hate, but different subject, different. We don't have enough time today. So there you go.
Yeah. Just making it clear that should not be the sole basis for making a report if there are legitimate concerns about safety. Jennifer?
I wanted to follow up a little bit on what Rashan said and just say something that I'm just going to keep saying because I just want to keep it kind of on the record, so to speak, which is I am really struggling with trying to address this piece of the definition without first talking about who mandatory reporters are, and particularly here to represent organizations that serve survivors of domestic violence and sexual violence. This task force came out of a bill that we were involved in where we were advocating to remove our victim advocates from the mandatory reporting list. So there is a big tension there for me that it makes it very difficult to think about what gets reported and defining neglect, rather than looking at who is on that list of reporters. And then to the resourcing piece, and I think I mentioned this last time as well, we have reporters on that list. Veterinarians are the first people that come to my mind as somebody who is completely removed from the day-to-day work that most of us do, who are not going to be necessarily well trained to assess a situation. And I know training is a piece of what we're going to talk about, but those pieces are just in the forefront of my mind as we're having these conversations.
Thank you, Jennifer. Duly noted.
Doris, this is Gina.
Hi, Gina.
Hi. I also will second that concern with what Jennifer has shared, and just kind of go back to that piece around if resources are as equally important, and I know we're working this out, is equally important as making sure kiddos are safe. We also, I feel, need to just, again, kind of echoing Jennifer, that we need to help folks understand, you know, who are these safe spaces for folks to go to. And I think that that's important in being really intentional about letting folks know who is required to report. And I feel that we're still kind of in this place of organizations, whether it's churches, after school programs, nonprofits, are coming from this place of concern for themselves and what that liability means. I just hear that a lot when we would have issues with parents. When I was a part of an after school program here, around, you know, volunteers kind of just, I feel, kind of knee-jerking back into, well, it's liability. I'm a mandatory reporter. I'm always a mandatory reporter. We're 24/7 mandatory reporters. And it's just like, well, for all the cops, and how is anyone ever supposed to come to some place for support and those resources? How is anyone ever supposed to trust any resource if, you know, if we're highlighting that they're just as important? So I'm just wanting to make sure to mention that piece. That's where my struggle is. And I support us moving forward, because I also understand, you know, getting these things done, and finding some additional places to address concerns that come up for me too. So just wanted to put that out there.
Thank you, Gina. So I want to acknowledge that I think both in, you know, voiceover as well as in the chat, that there is a desire to look at who is a mandated reporter. And so I know we're capturing that in the notes, and we'll have some further discussion about how and to what extent to include that in the work of the task force. It's not an explicit directive, but we'll do some behind the scenes. Stephanie, I see your hand raised, and maybe you're going to say something more.
Yeah, I just wanted to respond, generally the comments, and then Jill, your comment as well. Yes, I mean, we will be addressing all of the issues that various members have talked about here, including the issues of resourcing. You know, next session actually is going to be a pretty large session, which I think will begin to sort of tie down some of those larger issues. And one is looking at screening tools for mandated reporters. That's just sort of a preview. There are a couple folks in the country who actually have online tools that guide mandated reporters' decisions and help them decide, you know, what rises to a certain level of abuse, neglect, or doesn't, and requires resources. So you're going to be seeing, you know, be exposed to those tools. The second thing is you're going to be hearing, we hope, from New York regarding their so-called warm line and how they have learned to tie that in to their mandatory reporting statute, both in terms of training as well as just general resource provision. So just to forecast, that's absolutely coming, like in 2 weeks. And that's going to be the big group discussion. Just so you know, we initially had that as subcommittees. And then after we really heard everybody's discussions about their interest in these two issues and concerns, obviously, about how it relates to the overall statute, we decided to approach those topics as a group now. So everybody will be involved in those conversations. And then Jill, to your point, we absolutely have a roadmap where subcommittees will absolutely be addressing those other directives. And that includes the concerns about whether advocates should be mandated reporters at all. It includes institutional reporting for people who are in hospitals and educational settings. So by way of saying, yes, it is all coming, and it is coming fast. I just want to assure you that we hear you, and not only are we reading the statute as closely as you are and paying attention to what it requires, but we also hear you and how all these things have to tie together. So I just wanted to assure you all of that, and I appreciate your patience because, yeah, this is a huge balancing act when you have, I think, God, 17 directives, 14 directives, I can't remember, and about 18 months. Just thank you for your patience, and we will get there. And if for some reason you feel that we still are not there, I really urge you guys, please contact me. I am so open. We are fluid. We are working meeting to meeting to really respond to what the needs are and what the questions are. We want you to be comfortable with this, right? This is your task force. So just please keep talking to us and letting us know where those concerns lie. And I can do my best to weave them in if I have not thought of those issues that the team hasn't, or we can certainly have larger discussions. So just thank you all for those comments. Really smart comments.
Awesome. Thank you, Stephanie. All right, I know we wanted to make sure that we officially captured the folks who did not respond to the survey, so that we can record your support or opposition. I'm going to hand it over to Trace to help with sort of a roll calling of the folks who we haven't heard from yet.
Thanks, Doris. And Stephanie, if you can believe it, I just went back and double checked. It's 19 directives. So it's even, I know we get, it's pretty wild when we break it down. All right, y'all. So it's a little difficult online because people are kind of coming and going. So here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to read through how I have you marked in support or opposition for folks that we have the survey from. And I am able to capture a couple of people I know that we're missing, but what I'm going to then do is just say who else is in the call who is not, and I'll ask you for opposition or support. So I'm just going to go through the list now. It's starting with those that oppose, and then we'll go through the support. So Jennifer Isle, oppose. Chris Mins, oppose. Adriana Hartley, oppose. Jill Cohen, oppose. Roshan Kalantar, oppose. Zane Grant, support. Ida Drury, support. Yolanda Arredondo, support. Stephanie Villafuerte, support. Shauna McGuckin, support. Ashley Chase, support. Casey Hedrick, support. Michelle Murphy, support. Tara Doxtator, support. Kelsey Wirtz, support. Kathy Wells, support. Michelle Dossie, support. Sarah Peelsticker, support. Gina Lopez, support. Don Alexander, support. Donna L. Wilson, support. Margaret Ochoa, support. Leanna Gavin, support. Jessica Daughter, support. Kevin Bishop, support. Sam Carwin, support. And Carlos Castillo, support. So that is what I have on the record. Nate Helpern, I do not have your response, and I do see you on the call. Are you in opposition or support?
Can you clarify what what the question is we're answering? I just came in a little bit late to this, so.
Yeah, this is the language that you received via email.
Oh, yeah, I support.
Okay, thanks. Thanks, Nate. And Kelsey Wirtz, I see you in the chat. Support. Just give me 1 second. I'm just making sure for the record we write this down. Are there any other members of the task force on the call whose name was not called?
This is Jade Woodard. I support with the caveats we discussed today.
Jade. Thank you, Jade. Any other members on the call who were not captured just now in the roll call? Looking through. Give it just a moment. Okay. So I've added Nate as support, Kelsey as support, and Jade as support, in addition to the original. All right. Appreciate everyone's comments and feedback there. And again, as Stephanie mentioned, we will take that back to our team as we continue the roadmap planning onward. But I see Doris with the little yeah, where's the confetti? We have officially moved through the first recommendation. So excited to continue onward, Michelle. I love the Zoom like low key celebration. It's very chill. It's a good vibe. Okay, so with that, Stephanie, anything, I know we've gone through the roadmap. We told you this might be a short meeting today. We wanted to make sure we had the opportunity for conversation, but our team has lots to do to go back and ensure that we are ready for this next conversation. So I want to make sure we're not missing anything else for today before we move to public comment.
No, Trace, I don't think there's anything on our end. Just thank you, everybody, and we'll get back at it. Get back to the drawing board. And if you can, I really would urge you to try to make that February 28th meeting. I think it's going to be a lot of great information. I think it's the information that many of us have really been eager to have as we navigate these issues. So if you can, please try and stay for that whole time. It's going to be a lot, but I think it's going to be good.
Yeah, and on that note, thanks, Stephanie. We're going to be reaching out. We've had a couple folks shift on and off the task force, and we're trying to get our hands really around making sure that we understand folks' commitment moving forward and that we have the right representation. We have very specific roles of who is on the task force. And I know a couple of y'all have reached out around, role changes or organization changes, et cetera. So we're going to go back and make sure that we have exactly what we promised to the legislature as far as who is on this task force. And we will be following up one-on-one with folks to have continued conversation there. So just be expecting an outreach from me in the next few weeks. With that, I'm going to move on to public comment. I've had one request for public comment. They have requested to remain anonymous due to personal circumstances. And so I'm going to share with initials CD. And CD, I saw the note that you had sent to Doris about, just learning about this task force. So we appreciate you being here. The way that we typically do public comment is it's reserved at the end of the meetings, which is where we are at now. And we invite you to have 5 minutes to come on and make comments. And this isn't, the task force takes those into considerations as they move forward, but there isn't a dialogue with the task force currently, but we will have follow-up as needed. So feel free to private message me your contact information if you're comfortable with that. And we can follow up as needed, but would invite you to come off mute, and you have 5 minutes, and we appreciate you being here.
Thank you all. I was very excited to see in doing some of my research because my situation, I think I really wish I would have actually been selected for the task force because of what my last 4 years of what I will call hell has been involved with South Denver Department of Human Services. I've got some crossover into the disability, and knowing that I actually spoke to Carrie Ann Lucas and her team before the legislation went through on the Carrie Ann Lucas Act, I think she would be horrified to find out how the system has failed me and my family. There's still extenuating circumstances. I wish I could share a little bit more, so you're going to have to just bear with me. I'm trying to keep this as private as possible since it's still in litigation. My child and I were involved in a couple of motor vehicle collisions. As a result of trying to evaluate whether my child sustained long-term injuries, because that is a part of personal injury law in Colorado, is that a parent of a minor child needs to address were they injured, because otherwise it could be neglect. So these car accidents changed the outcome of my life, put me on disability. And then when doctors were trying to figure out the extent of everything that was going on with me, they also learned that there was a genetic issue in the family. And that whole process from the time of the first collision, and then there was actually two, so they blamed each other. I was not at fault for either one of these. Okay, so there's the massive injustice here. Both accidents blamed each other. I started going to the pediatrician for some support because there were some issues. My son had some sensory processing issues that had been identified by a major hospital system here in Colorado. And the school was really pushing back. These are, top level staff, principal, vice principal, nurse, acting as though they'd never heard of such a thing. So I ended up going to another state-supported advocacy group to help support and basically get some people on our side to be, hey, this is a complicated situation. You need to take some of this seriously because the child was young at the time this happened. Who was going to advocate for the child besides mom? And essentially what happened is the advocacy group, I've been working with them for 2 years. And some of these injuries, just so you understand, they are rare and invisible. It took 7 years to properly diagnose me. 7 years. And during this time, I'm trying to figure out, is my son really okay? Because I look fine. I'm not in a wheelchair. I'm not using a cane or crutches, anything like that. But what happened is that this advocacy group had not heard of this genetic issue before, decided that I was a threat to my child, started feeding some bad information to the school. They turned their back on me. And then when the pediatrician was consulted, when the complaint had gone in that, hey, this mom doesn't know what she's doing, the pediatrician that we'd had for a long time decided to turn her back on me as well. And the situation here, and this is real big with ADA and what the Carrie Ann Lucas Act was supposed to achieve, was that you do not discriminate based on, I'm hearing all of it, sexual identity, gender identity, disability, health status. And that is exactly what happened. Every single level failed. My attorney and I brought up the Carrie Ann Lucas Act, the ADA. It was ignored. This was all in the middle of COVID. So it was all about protecting everybody's, the social distancing, and I was denied any due process for 2.5, 3 years. I was required to work with providers that were not knowledgeable of the disabilities. DHS didn't even tell them that I was on SSDI. And then when I spoke up and advocated for myself, they rejected it. So there are some real strong, there's already an imbalance of power with parents against teachers, parents against doctors, parents with uneducated advocates, because unfortunately, the advocate I ended up with that made the fatal call was only working for them for about 3 months. Comments from the school that are in discovery indicate, well, she's not in a wheelchair, so how can she be disabled? These are the people teaching our children. They are so uneducated and ignorant of the law. And the schools is not only required to follow ADA for children, but also parents. So I really have been through this system. The Court of Appeals chose not to uphold federal law regarding the ADA. And the Supreme Court just recently decided to not take my case, which I know they have a big list that they can take on. But I'm in a situation now where I am nearing bankruptcy. Everything that I've worked for my entire life, for 25 years while I was still able-bodied before these things happened to me, is about gone. There are some very serious surgeries I need in the future to try and stabilize my injuries, because I am at risk of some pretty severe consequences, including death, based on the combination of injuries and this genetic condition. And not one person has really stopped to say, you know, was it really bad that she took her child to occupational therapy, to physical therapy when he was complaining about his back? They have literally accused me of abusing my child because I followed the law in Colorado. So just so that you understand, my child was never hospitalized, never in the emergency room, never any broken bones or stitches. This is truly a case based on disability hate, and we have not heard about your condition, so you must be mentally ill. And in 4 years, I am still being told, and I am not going to do it. I know what I did was following the law. I know my rights, my civil rights under ADA, the Carrie Ann Lucas Act, the Colorado Anti-Discrimination Act, the Rehabilitation Act. And my son, again, had been diagnosed by a major medical system, and he did need accommodations at school, and they decided to push back. And that's kind of where things are at. There are some real big issues with power and control. And I like kind of where you guys are going, but I think my story, given that I have been fighting this since December of 2019, I've spent the last 6 to 8 weeks sick because when the Supreme Court turned down my case, I realized this is over. I'm probably going to never get my child back. And here it is that by actually being proactive, I was deemed an unfit parent. So I think this is a real big thing that needs to be investigated regarding doctors. The pediatricians are not experts in these fields, these genetics fields. They're not experts in personal injury law. Neither are the school educators. They are not, let's just throw this out here because this is what we're dealing with. They're not neurovascular surgeons. And yet they deemed that my actions to make sure that my child was okay, because again, I'm sitting here talking to you. You would have no idea meeting me that I'm dealing with the medical issues that I am. And I'm just hoping that you can really dig down into that, because the Carrie Ann Lucas Act, I just got the current court process, because on top of this, I'm a survivor of domestic violence. So my abuser now has control of my child and is using the court system to further abuse me, actually accusing me of making up the disabilities, even though I've been officially on disability for almost 10 years now. So there's some real big gaps. And if, you know, my parents are old, they're probably never going to see their grandchild again because they supported me and the court alienated them from my son as well as from me. So there's some real big concerns, and I'm hoping that I can engage in the conversation a little bit more. That's a lot, that's a big data dump, but I have literally spent all of my energy and all of my life savings to try and get my child back, and it is falling on deaf ears. The court does not follow the civil rights laws. They do not. And there needs to be some kind of consequence for when there are false allegations like this and there's absolute disability hate going on. Or hate, you know, LGBTQ, anything. That when you can kind of tie it that there is some major bias going on, and if you look at my discovery and what the people were saying, there is some clear hatred going on. They just didn't want me advocating for me and my child's rights. And so what better way to silence her than to falsely accuse her? That's going to shut her up. And it did, sort of. I'm on the call. So, Trace,
CD,
I'm gonna send you my contact.
Yeah, I was gonna say I don't mean to cut you off, but I do
nope,
want to.
I'm over my time.
I
appreciate what you all are doing.
Yeah, we really appreciate you being here, particularly under the challenges of identity and all the things you just named. So a lot of gratitude for your willingness to show up, and I'm just seeing a lot of head nods as well from folks on the task force. So unfortunately online it is challenging, but if I could reach across and say thank you, I would. So thank you for being here. And please send me your contact information privately. And I also will just say you found us online, I'm guessing, in the public meetings, so you're certainly welcome at each public meeting, and there's always public comment at the end in a similar format. Typically, we don't let folks go this early, but we just wrapped up a recommendation today. So thank you for being here, CD. Much appreciated. So I will follow up to make sure that you understand when our future meetings are. All right, are there any other members of the public on the phone call that are looking to provide public comment before we wrap up today's meeting? Okay, seeing none. Stephanie, I'll invite you for any closing comments. Otherwise, we have our next meeting February 28th as outlined in the roadmap, and really appreciate folks' responsiveness via email, and we'll continue to look for that as we continue to share resources so that we can continue to have these robust discussions. Stephanie, anything else to close us out?
Just thank you all, and happy Wednesday. Have a good rest of the week. Thank you.
All right, thanks everyone. Bye.